Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to New Orleans, Louisiana, and the Superdome for another incredible United States Auto Association Championship Mud Racing and Monster Truck Spectacular. I'm Brett Kepner, and along with Shelley Herman, we'll be presenting one of the best competition lineups we've seen so far this year in U.S. Auto Association competition. Of course, we'll be starting things off with the incredible super modified mud racers, the quickest and fastest off-road vehicles anywhere. And Shelley, we've got a lot of brand new mud racing vehicles here tonight.
We'll see how the rookies stack up with the veterans, and in this count, anything can happen.
That's for sure. And of course, we have another incredible battle of the monster trucks, and this time it'll be a little different. The regular four-wheel monsters will take on some of the wildest monster tanks in the business, and Shelley, one of the first entries for this event was Andy Brasson's Bigfoot.
That's always a good competition.
That's true, and of course we've also got an incredible thrill show segment, including Ernie Adams, one of the premier motorcycle stunt jumpers of the business, who will be trying to clear an incredible 16-car lineup here on the floor of the Superdome, and that will be wild.
I can't wait to see it.
Indeed, we'll get ready to start the first round of competition here at the Superdome in New Orleans for the U.S. Auto Association Mud Racing and Monster Truck Spectacular. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana for the kickoff of U.S. Auto Association Championship Mud Racing here. I'm Brett Kepner, and along with Shelley Herman, we're ready to start things off with the super modified category on a 90-foot-long mud pit in an elapsed time competition. And the first machine up, Doug Marsh, in the incredible hard times funny car Jeep of Mitch Graham, takes on Mike Bossina and the Ford-powered 1923 T Roadster called the Stud. The first pair on the starting line and ready for competition. The supercharged Chevy-powered Jeep funny car, a carbureted nitrous-injected T-Roadster, Bossina in the Stud, the first man off the line. A lot of water on top of the mud to start things off for the first pair, Shelley.
It's really soupy out there, too. Now, we've got to remember that although these cars are racing side by side, they are not in head-to-head competition with each other. It's the best elapsed time from all the cars that will determine the winner.
Well, Mike Bossina's Stud, digging through that watery pit, goes 3.33 seconds to start things off as the first man across the finish line. It looked like Doug Marsh had a lot of traction problems off the starting line, maybe even a little bog in the motor. But he eventually got back at the throttle. Here's the slow-motion replay for the supercharged Chevy-powered Jeep funny car. You can see him hitting the water on top of that mud very, very quickly. He gets up on top of the mud, but still with the problems off the starting line runs 5.12 seconds. So the mark to beat to start things off, Bossina's incredible lowrider T-Roadster at 3.33 seconds. The national elapsed time record for this distance of 90 feet is 2 seconds flat, held by defending world champion Tom Martin. How about Keith Metcalf's incredible River Rat Camaro taking on this man, the winningest mud racing driver in U.S. Auto Association history, Clay Langley from Independence, Missouri, with his supercharged, fuel-injected, small-block Chevy-powered 32 Austin Bantam Roadster. Metcalf, a brand-new entry at the U.S. Auto Association Tour with an 87 IROC Z28 Camaro with small-block Chevrolet power as well. Both machines lined up on the starting line, the flagman ready to send the second pair down. Langley leads before the green flag comes up, but that won't disqualify him as the electronic timers will keep the elapsed time nonetheless. But both drivers, again, having trouble in this rather soupy pit, Shelley.
It seems like just when I get to the end, there's that big splash. The swirl, and it helps to slow them down, too. I guess it's all for safety.
Well, this is a stadium depth pit. It's only 24 inches of mud as opposed to the up to 48-inch deep pits that we sometimes campaign on. But it doesn't stop the super modifieds as they're designed to skim over the surface of the mud. When you get more water, though, it actually slows the vehicles down from forward progress. Let's see Clay Langley hitting that water. And again, you can see a little bit of a drop-off off the starting line there. You can see the steam off the hot exhaust headers as Langley blasts his way through the very, very wet pit. The elapsed time, 3.10 seconds. But certainly no motor problems or anything else slowing the longtime veteran down in the Nitro Express Bantam Roadster sponsored by the Iski Camshaft Company. Over in the other lane, the brand new River Rat Camaro leaves the starting line. The carbureted gas-burning machine also had problems getting up on top of the mud, and that made for a splash scene like you've never seen. 3.40 seconds will put Metcalf in the number 3 spot right now. The River Rat Camaro in its maiden voyage in U.S. Auto Association competition. Well, that'll bring out the Wildfire Jeep funny car of Rich Whitfield from Little Rock, Arkansas. This is also one of his first ever U.S. Auto Association national events. Ironically, it's another small block Chevy, but look at this thing. This is Tom Killingsworth from Summit, Kansas. Take a look at a 1986 Chevy S10, one of the lightest vehicles ever built for this type of competition. 1,700 pounds. It's a 520 cubic inch fuel-injected aluminum Rodex Chevrolet engine in the little black pickup called Earthshaker. That's an incredible-looking piece of equipment, Shelley, and it has all the best of equipment. It's going to be interesting to see how he does.
And it's a completely different strategy between the two vehicles. If you'll notice, one has all four tires the same. The other one that's closest to you in the screen, the tires in the front are a little bit smaller than the ones in the back.
It's true. Very few of the drivers anymore are running the same size tires all the way around. Now they leave the starting line, and the newcomer in the pickup gets blown away by the newcomer from Little Rock, Arkansas in the Jeep Funny Car. Whitfield's small block fuel-injected machine annihilates the big block Earthshaker. The little S10 getting bogged down rather early. Remember the mark to beat right now, 3.10 seconds. It's going to be tough to beat under the current conditions. There you see, waving to the crowd despite his rather sloppy pass, is Rich Whitfield. You can see on the instant replay here that Whitfield left the line very well. He left extremely early as opposed to Killingsworth in the new S10. The elapsed time, 3.09 seconds, is 1/100th of a second better than leader Clay Langley, and that'll put Whitfield's Jeep Funny Car in the #1 spot. Now, like we said, Killingsworth left the line very, very late. He also got into that rather deep step off from the starting line, but then started motoring, and look at the elapsed time for the new Chevy, 2.64 seconds. So that will easily take over the lead by a solid 0.4 of a second for the Earthshaker S10. That thing looks like it just came through a car wash, Shelley.
Well, not the kind of car wash I go to. That picked up quite a bit of mud, and you can see it leaking out of the side door.
Well, we'll be back with more championship super modified mud racing action from the Crescent City in just a moment. We're back at the New Orleans Superdome for the continuation of U.S. Hot Rod Association Championship Super Modified Mud Racing. And our first machine up in this round is Jesse Jacobs' incredible full-bodied Chevrolet called Terminator against this machine. One of the quickest and fastest in the business. Texas-owned Bubba Clements and the machine called Chances Are. A supercharged, fuel-injected Jeep-bodied machine utilizing Chevrolet power in a 2,200-pound chassis. The Terminator machine out of Avondale, Louisiana, relatively new to the U.S. Hot Rod Association Championship Trail. The nitrous oxide injected, carbureted 460 cubic inch Chevrolet. This thing weighs 3,900 pounds, Shelley.
Quite a bit different compared to the 2,200 pounds of Chances Are.
I'll tell you, that is a heavyweight, full-body truck. The green flag comes out, and Clements is on a tremendous run.
Oh.
That should be good enough for the #1 spot. Here comes the 3,900-pound Chevrolet pickup, well behind the supercharged Texas ride. But Bubba Clements comes up with a great number. Remember the mark to beat now, 2.64 seconds. Tommy Killingsworth's brand new Earthshaker Chevy S10 pickup is leading this field right now. But what a pass by Bubba Clements. Let's take a look at this one more time. The perfect launch. The front end comes up immediately. We have that little step off the starting line that's causing some problems for some of the other drivers. But then straight and true up on the mud, 2.54 seconds, locking up the brakes and sliding into the #1 spot for Bubba Clements' Texas Jeep. Great pass, Shelley.
And he takes a look behind to see just where the Terminator is.
Well, Terminator was very late in leaving the starting line. When he did, however, you can see it was a rough ride. A machine with this high of a vehicle weight is indeed going to bounce around pretty heavily. 3.88 seconds, though, for an almost 4,000-pound Chevy truck is an excellent attempt for the newcomer from right here in Louisiana. Terminator Chevrolet is definitely one of the heaviest vehicles we've ever seen in competition. It takes guts to enter one against these lightweight killers. The next pair of machines up includes another relatively stock vehicle. This is Mike Landishi from Mars, Louisiana. Now, this thing uses a 350 cubic inch Chevrolet and a Jeep CJ body, and it's a 3,100-pounder. He's up against the altered wheelbase double trouble 71 Toyota pickup with a 396 Chevrolet. No nitrous in the double trouble entry. They leave the starting line, and it's actually a pretty darn good race. And finally, the Chevy-powered Toyota pulls it out of the top end.
Well, Double Trouble looked like he ran into a little bit of trouble at the very start, but he managed to pull out of it. We'll look in the instant replay and see if we can see just where he got bogged down.
Well, Dan Lemke from Texas was pretty happy with the run. Here's Louisiana-based Chevy-powered Jeep CJ of Mike Landishi. The 78 Jeep, definitely not with the power that we saw in a Bubba Clements or some of the other machines, but still a pretty decent run. 3.87 seconds for the vehicle called Salty Puppy. And that indeed will place him right now in the top 6. Lots of mud coming up when he actually gets out of the throttle down near the finish line. I like the functioning windshield wipers myself. Here's the double trouble of Dan Lemke leaving the line, and both machines fall into the mud just off the starting line, but at 3.30 seconds, it's actually good right now for one of the top 6 positions as well for Dan Lemke in the Double Trouble Chevy-powered Toyota four-wheeler of all things. Still more machines already sitting up at the starting line and ready to go. And here is a wild pair of vehicles. In the far lane, you are looking at the crazy horse of Billy McWilliams. Believe it or not, folks, that is what is left of a 1978 Ford Mustang II. This is Larry D'Antoni, a policeman, believe it or not, if I'm not mistaken. And indeed, the Addicted to Mud 1932 Ford. Now, this is a brand new vehicle, but as you can see, it's patterned very closely to defending world champ Tom Martin's machine. Tom Mintz's Shake Me entry. A lot of the drivers going to the 32 Ford fiberglass body. Like I said, a wild piece of equipment for Billy Ray McWilliams Jr., the Santa Rosa, Louisiana driver of what used to be a Ford Mustang II. They leave the line. A great pass for Larry D'Antoni. The Addicted to Mud machine may have pulled out one of the quickest runs of this event on that one, Shelley.
Larry sure seemed happy with it. He looked like he was going to take the car right out of the building.
Yeah, he didn't bother locking up the brakes. Of course, we have a long runoff area here at the Superdome, but there is a happy driver. The mark to beat was 2.54 seconds. Let's look at this pass. A supercharged, Predator carbureted Chevrolet motor up on the tires, immediately staying out of the ruts. 2.46 seconds gives him the #1 spot for a brand new vehicle here at the Superdome. Tremendous effort.
And a real smooth ride, too.
I'll tell you, this machine was on an equally good run until it got a little sideways at mid-range. You can see Billy McWilliams steering the heck out of this piece of metal that's originally a Ford Mustang II. An excellent run, however, for the Chevy-powered vehicle at 2.65 seconds. And indeed, that should give him, I believe, the #4 position right now. A tremendous run for a machine that we have seen severely modified over the last couple of years. 1 year ago at this event, that was a full-bodied 74 Mustang II, and look at it now. Well, here's a piece of equipment that is always tough. From the Crum family racing team out of Kansas City, Missouri. This is Bud Crum's Jeep, but look at this incredible new piece of equipment. It's first time ever in the mud. This is Don Johnson's incredible Cool Breeze Chevrolet Corvette. An absolutely astounding piece of equipment that has never been in a mud pit before this run, Shelley.
I'll be looking forward to see just how well he does.
I'll tell you, from Fayetteville, Georgia, that is an immaculate car. Now, Bud Crum is utilizing a 410 cubic inch nitrous-injected AMC engine in that altered wheelbase 83 Jeep. Not many people sticking with the original Rambler power plant in the Jeep CJs. They leave the line. Look at Johnson in the Corvette. Tremendous pass for that beautiful new lightweight door slammer. That is on a 1,700-pound vehicle, and man, it flew.
He just blasted through the mud like there was no obstructions at all.
Well, you can see problems off or at the finish line, I should say, for Bud Crum. I don't know exactly what the problem was there, but indeed, this Corvette is truly incredible. Look at the replay as this full-bodied, full-fendered showpiece blasts through the mud sideways and still runs 2.61 seconds. That's good for #3 right now for the machine's first ever run. Now let's take a look and see if we can spot Bud Crum's problems. Boy, lots of backfiring through the pipes almost immediately. He stays with the throttle all the way down, then the backfire through the carburetors, and it's still on fire going across the finish line at 4.51 seconds. The fire dies out, but Bud Crum on the wildest run so far of this event, without a doubt. But with an upset leader in the super modified ranks, Larry D'Antoni's brand new Addicted to Mud 1932 Ford, this thing's getting interesting. And Charlie, that 246 may not hold up.
Well, there's still lots more mud to come.
That's true, and we'll be back with more super modified mud racing in just a moment. Back at the New Orleans Superdome for more U.S. Hot Rod Association Championship Super Modified Mud Racing action. I'm Brett Kemner, and along with Shelley Herman, this is Steve Sewell's 88 Ford Thunderbird called Mudbuster, taking on the other half of the Crum family racing team, Kevin Crum and his Chevrolet-powered Jeep called No Respect. Shelley, we just saw the other half of the Crum team, Bud Crum, on fire at the finish line, so I think Kevin has a little bit of extra enthusiasm in this particular round.
This sure hasn't been Bud's year. I'm hoping that he'll be able to pull it off for the whole family.
Well, we saw him have a severe engine explosion in Cincinnati recently on ESPN's coverage of U.S. Hot Rod Association action. He wants to improve, no doubt. They leave the starting line. Crum's got problems off the line. Then the Ford Thunderbird runs into problems at half track. A lot of steam off the exhaust headers for Crum, but the starting line launch really hurt him on that one. And Crum's machine, indeed, will not threaten the leaders on that run. He turns off the nitrous oxide injection from the big blue compressed air canister next to the driver. You can see on the instant replay the start start was definitely not to his liking. Machine never really getting under power immediately. The elapsed time, 3.02 seconds on the brakes hard at the finish line. At that point, looking over to see what in the world happened to Steve Sewell and the T-Bird. The T-Bird left the line nicely, Shelley.
But he seems like he got a little bogged down. You can see he's really having trouble holding on to that steering wheel. He gets sideways, comes out of the throttle, because if you go out of bounds, you are disqualified. His elapsed time, 15.12 seconds. Not a serious threat to any of our competitors.
I'll tell you, there's apparently getting to be some pretty deep ruts over that lane that may threaten this driver. This is Larry Jarrett, who's won a past USHRA Association National Championship event in Oklahoma City. That sprint car-looking machine uses a supercharged, fuel-injected, nitrous-injected, big block Chevrolet. He's up against Georgia's Arnie McIntyre in a Chevy Love truck. They're ready. They leave the line. Jarrett on a tremendous pass. Locks them up sideways in the shutdown area. And Shelley, that was obviously the quickest run of this event.
He was doing some fancy handiwork there, just trying to hang on to that machine.
It appeared to be drifting down near the finish line just a little bit to the left, but he kept it relatively straight, under power. Let's look at this run again. Look at the launch. The left front wheel up in the air immediately, straight and true. Carry in the front end, 2.12 seconds sideways across the finish line, locking up the brakes. Larry Jarrett takes over the lead by 0.3 of a second. What a run.
And here you can see Arnie seems to be getting a good start, but also he's starting to fishtail a little bit too in the back.
Yeah, getting a little loose down near the finish line. A lot of tire growth. Actually hits the finish line pole down there, but at 2.80 seconds, he'll also slide into one of the top 5 spots. An excellent run, actually, for the 2,800-pound Chevy Love truck. Tremendous pass, come to think of it. We've got another one of these stock Jeeps coming up. A neat little piece called Shoes Rig. Johnny Shoemaker, the driver and owner from Waynesboro, Mississippi. It's a 1979 Jeep CJ, once again with a transplanted Chevy 350 under the hood. He'll be up against the 1981 Chevy pickup called Shake, Rattle, and Roll of Terry Reed from Long Beach, Mississippi.
Now, both of these men own their own businesses outside of racing here, but I have a feeling racing is really their first love, and that just helps support their hobby.
These are weekly diehards. These guys will find a mud pit to race in just about week in and week out. They're here this weekend, obviously, at the Superdome, one of the biggest races of their lives, especially when you're faced with Larry Jarrett's 2.12-second leading time. It's going to take a minor miracle for these guys to even get close to that kind of performance. Moving up, staged on the starting line. Waiting for the starter to give the signal. They leave the line together, and actually a good race for the first 30 feet. But after that, it was all Terry Reed in the Mississippi Chevy Love truck. He takes it through easily, as obviously Johnny Shoemaker runs into some kind of problem. He is stuck at about half track in the Chevrolet-powered Jeep CJ.
Well, he's stuck there, but a measurement will be taken, and he will be given credit for the distance he did accomplish.
Now on the instant replay, you can see the Mississippi racer leaving the starting line, coming down off that drop of the starting line. 3.25 seconds the elapsed time as he just about goes out of bounds down there. He did eventually go out of the berm, but after the finish line pole, so at that point it didn't matter. But the 325 won't do him that much good. In the meantime, you can see just coasting through. There's something went away almost immediately when he nailed the throttle. Johnny Shoemaker running into big-time problems. He'll get a 65-foot distance of this 90-foot pit. That'll put him at this point well down into the pack.
Well, some measurements better than no measurement, I suppose.
Still have more machines to come. As a matter of fact, one of the stronger entries in this sport is in the far lane. It'll be the incredible Sandpacker, being driven by Jim Tollison. The 44-year-old veteran out of Bivens, Texas, is always a killer with his 509 cubic inch Chevy-powered ride. He'll be taking on Darren Matthew from Moss Point, Mississippi. The Attitude Adjustment, 1979 Toyota, of all things, was last seen on the USHRA Association Trail in Houston, Texas. An extremely competitive machine, 2,800 pounds with Ford power in this Toyota. The Ford leaves the starting line first, and unbelievably, James Tollison can't even get past about the 50-foot marker. That's a huge upset win for Darren Matthews.
Well, it looked like, too, with attitude adjustment, he might have pulled out of the throttle just a little bit too early, maybe being a little too cautious, but it could have cost him a few tenths of a second.
I'm more interested to find out what happened to James Tollison. We'll take a look at the slow-motion run from Darren Matthews head-on here. Look at the tire growth on the back of this thing. 400 cubic inch Ford small block on nitrous oxide, and that is certainly the quickest that vehicle has ever run. 2.56 seconds for a 2,800-pound vehicle. That is an exceptional effort. Meanwhile, Jim Tollison, who could have easily threatened Larry Jarrett, Something goes away in the drivetrain, only 20 feet off the starting line, and he's left coasting through, Shelley, 75-foot pass.
It doesn't put him dead last. Remember, we had someone who measured in at 65 feet earlier.
Here's the final competitor in this first and only round of super modified mud racing. Larry Kolikis' 1982 Chevy Corvette is left with a 2.12-second mark to beat. The 454 cubic inch big block Chevrolet vet called outrageous from Kenner, Louisiana, will be the last man down this track to try and beat Larry Jarrett's incredible supercharged sprint car out of the #1 spot. There's the green flag. Kolikis puts her into gear and nails the throttle. He's got a good run going, but I don't think it's going to be good enough to knock Jarrett out of the #1 spot. The crowd cheering him on nonetheless, but I don't think that was a 212, Shelley.
I don't think so either, but it was still a real respectable run in its own right.
With the ruts developing in both lanes of the track, you can see Kolikis definitely fighting the steering wheel just to keep in a straight line. Let's look at it from a head-on angle. There you can see it already shimmying around. The elapsed time, 3.08 seconds. And Kolikis' beautiful 82 Corvette will be unable to threaten the leader. Of course, Larry Jarrett, the Oklahoma killer. Indeed, Jarrett comes back after having not won a U.S. Off-Road Association Championship event in over a year. He takes the super modified title at 2.12 seconds with supercharged Chevrolet power. But how about Larry D'Antoni's brand new Addicted to Mud 32 Ford with Chevy power, running 246 for the #2 spot, ahead of people like Bubba Clements and the Chances Are machine. The incredible attitude adjustment of Darren Matthews finishes fourth, the first full-bodied vehicle in that lineup. And the incredible new Corvette called Cool Breeze of Don Johnson finishes fifth in its first event ever, Shelley. Take a look at the replay one more time for the man who won this event. Oklahoma's Larry Jarrett wheels up at 2.12 seconds. Incredible.
And he makes quite a splash for a finish.
Sideways with the brakes locked up. Like I said, that supercharged Chevrolet never really touched the front end down all the way. And here's the brand new vehicle that finished #2, Larry D'Antoni. From Louisiana, the Addicted to Mud 32 Ford, following in the footsteps of Tom Martin and Tom Mintz.
And if you're going to copy somebody, copy Tom Martin, because he seems to know what he's doing.
That's right, the defending world champ, one of the first to bring that 32 Ford body style into the sport. And here's a guy that is always one of the toughest, the supercharged home-built Jeep of Texas's own Bubba Clements. The Chances Are machine on a tremendous blast for third place. The absolute best drivers in the business in the U.S. Off-Road Association Super Modified ranks from coast to coast. But that's not all the action we have here coming up. Next up will be the incredible Ernie Adams, one of the greatest new motorcycle talents in the business. He'll be here next, so stay tuned. We're back, ladies and gentlemen, at the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, as the U.S. Off-Road Association Monster Truck Mud Racing and Thrill Show Spectacular continues. And Shelley Herman, we're waiting for the first motorcycle jump attempt by one of the hottest new names in the business.
And that new name is Ernie Adams from Canoga Park, California. He's a Valley guy from the San Fernando Valley area.
I'll tell you, this young man is amazing. His first jump attempt will be over 16 cars. Here he comes onto the approach ramp. Up. Beautiful jump. Unbelievable distance. That wasn't a 16-car jump, Shelley. That was well over 20.
I can't wait to see the instant replay on that to see just how well he cleared that.
Well, right now, the concern is in the shutout area, where apparently Adams had to lay down that bike into the hay bales in the shutoff area. But right now, I don't see any emergency crews or anything underway. It looks like he is okay, but apparently had to use up every available inch of stopping distance after clearing well over 16 cars. Here you see the bike get a little squirrely when the front forks compress when he hits the approach ramp. Sailing beautifully. There's the end of the ramp. He is still in the air. He finally puts the front end down past the end of the landing ramp. They coast for a little while. There you can see him first getting on the brakes as he heads down into the shutdown area, and apparently had to lay the bike down to stop it. Now here's an interesting angle from the end of the takeoff ramp, Shelley.
And you can see he actually gets more height as he pulls up on the front end of his bike. And when he lands, his body absorbs most of the impact. He doesn't bounce around and lose control of the bike at all.
It's true. He slammed the front end down pretty hard, but he didn't move around at all when he did it. Tremendous upper body strength of this young man. And there you see the safety crews with him. He is apparently okay, rubbing his wrist. Maybe he took, like you said, a lot of that energy right in his arms. And walking out, I'm sure he'll get a heck of an ovation after that incredible jump. Ernie Adams.
Joe, and he had an excellent jump there, too. And if it wasn't for the fact that the bike let him down, he would have jumped even further.
Well, it's interesting to note that Ernie's program tonight calls for him to come right back around on the same bike and make a second jump. They are currently adding 2 more cars to the end of the lineup of machines that he jumped a minute ago to make it a total of 18. Now, it was obvious that he cleared what would have well been over 20 cars in total distance. You can see him obviously feeling the brunt of that first landing, but indeed, he should be probably getting on another bike. I would certainly think he's going to use his backup bike this time around.
Well, he gave a thumbs-up sign, so I think physically he's ready for it.
Now watch the machine. Right there, you see it get a little squirrely when the front fork's compressed. He manages to straighten it out. It was just a period of maybe 8 feet where the bike was a little sideways. He gets back in it. There you see that incredible landing. No exaggeration, at the end of the landing ramp, jumping what would have been the equivalent of 20, maybe even 22 cars. Tremendous jump by this young man. He is definitely gaining a reputation. Now, apparently, we've received word he's on the bike and ready. Here he is already, making the second jump. Another perfect landing and another phenomenal distance. This guy doesn't waste any time. It looks like he may have gone down again by the signs from the folks there at the approach ramp and down into the shutdown area. Hopefully he's okay.
I don't know if you can appreciate the type of speeds that this young man is approaching when you're watching this on television.
He is making these hits at about 75 miles per hour, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's going a little faster than that. As you can see, the ground crew is now starting to head back in there. And we've received word that indeed he is again in the hay bales. Let's watch this in slow motion. There it again gets a little sideways when the front forks compress. He is up in the air again. There's the end of the cars. And there's where he finally lands this thing. That was a much rougher landing this time, though, Shelley.
It sure was, but again, those knees, those tired knees are absorbing a lot of that brunt of the pressure.
To make 2 jumps back-to-back like that is simply incredible. Here's the off the end of the takeoff ramp angle. Man, he is up there. The flash bulbs go off as the crowd loves every minute of this man's incredible jumping ability. And I'll tell you what, that was a rough landing. Incredible tire distortion in the back. It was almost going over. But there you see the ground crews in the shutdown tunnel congratulating Ernie on another phenomenal jump. You are going to hear so much more about this guy in the future, Shelley.
He seems real pleased with it, too. I have a feeling that there's a big adrenaline rush that's going for him right now, and the crowd's just adding to it.
Now watch, it gets a little squirrely right there. He stays in the throttle, up the ramp. Incredible height over these cars. Watch again, right there's the end of the cars. And there's the landing. Man, a rough landing, but that has to be another 40 feet of travel past 18 cars. It's simply incredible.
I look forward to seeing him do more and more of this kind of stuff indoors.
Now, we got another angle from head on. I want you to watch this landing, and you see how much rougher this was than even his first landing. Watch the rear tire on this motorcycle distort when it puts it down. See how far back he is. He was definitely not in control. Look at that hit. Unbelievable flexing of the motorcycle chassis. He took a big hit physically on that landing, and there he goes into the shutdown area to put it down one more time. Absolutely amazing young man that you're going to be hearing a lot more about. Canoga Park, California's own Ernie Adams. At USHRA Association shows across the country. He has been a literal superstar, Shelley.
And limping slightly back to his bike, Ernie Adams. We'll be seeing a lot more of him.
Well, speaking of seeing a lot more, we've got a tremendous amount of action yet to go. The Battle of the Monster Trucks is still waiting in the wings. But up next, the Dynamite Lady, Allison Bly. Stay with us. Back at New Orleans' incredible Superdome as the USHRA Association Thrill Show action continues. This is Allison Bly, the Dynamite Lady.
Brett, you had a chance to talk to this incredible woman earlier.
In the annals of stunt performances, there have been few women involved in the job. However, there have been fewer women yet involved in one particular stunt, that of the Human Bomb Act. Allison Bly, while not a newcomer to the world of stunts, is indeed just now gaining the recognition for the one and only human bomb stunt across the country involving a female. And Allison, this particular stunt is not exactly one of the easiest there is in the business.
No, it's not. In fact, it could be fatal, but I've been successful now. This will be my 147th blow-up.
Well, there have been quite a few gentlemen before you, Benny the Bomb, Danny Reed, several others who have gained quite a bit of recognition with this particular stunt. What exactly gave you the idea to carry on this tradition?
My agent has been a manager and agent of a few of the other men that blow themselves up. Figured it was pretty original to have a woman in a sexy costume and come out and blow herself up, and been doing great for 4 years now.
Well, like I said, although you're no newcomer to this business, you're just now getting some taste of national fame. How has it been so far?
been great. I'm wallowing in it. I love it.
This particular stunt involves a tremendous amount of abuse on one's body. In this particular case, a lot of pressure on the chest, and there's a lot of preparation before this stunt that goes into making it successful, right?
True. What I do, I prepare most of my stuff in Tampa, and I carry it here with me. I can't carry explosives with me on an airplane, so I do have to drive. It's equivalent to 4 sticks of dynamite that I put in the box, and then I ignite it after a 10-to-1 countdown. A lot of the pressure inside is real tight. The explosion blows outward, so the people hear the noise more on the outside than what I hear inside. It can be very damaging. I've broke up some bones in the last couple of years and had a few powder and flash burns, so it's not 100% safety, but it has been successful.
I know from the other gentlemen who performed this stunt at USHRA Association events that the pressure that is inflicted, like I said, on the body can be compensated for a little bit by getting rid of air in the lungs and a few other tricks. What are yours?
I keep my mouth wide open, my eyes shut, and my fingers crossed.
Well, I know you plan on a long, long career in this. We certainly wish you the best of luck at your first USHRA Association event.
Thank you very much. I'm also doing some other stunts, motorcycle, wrestling, and a few high falls, and anything I can get into. I really like the entertainment business as a stunt profession.
Well, if nothing else, Allison Bly maybe just now getting national fame, but you're going to be hearing a lot about this lady in future events.
That's Allison Bly, the Dynamite Lady. Well, there goes another one of those male bastions. First was the Friars Club, and now it's blowing yourself up. Allison Bly. You know, and she said earlier she wants to dedicate this blow up to Bubba.
I don't know who Bubba is, but certainly it's a heck of a way to get his attention. And as you pointed out before, this is no joke. 4 sticks of dynamite. The crowd will be giving a countdown from 10 to 1. She can hear, obviously, 40,000 people inside that box on the floor of the New Orleans Superdome. The Dynamite Lady inside that wood and plastic box, 4 sticks of dynamite around her. She'll be getting rid of the air in her lungs, making sure she's loose to roll with the explosion's blast. A tremendous explosion. By the way, if you've never seen this, the crowd will begin the countdown. At this point, Allison has already armed the explosive devices inside the box. She alone will be detonating this explosion. Now keep an eye on the box and watch Allison Bly at work.
2, 1, go!
Tremendous explosion that even rocks the camera. We can't see her from our vantage point. There she is on the center of the screen, rolling around, and now starting to catch her breath. Obviously, she is at least sort of conscious at this point. You can see the paramedics are always on standby for this particular stunt right there with her, and apparently she is breathing and ready to get up, Shelley.
She looks like she wants to get to her feet, but everybody's just making sure that she just stays down just a second longer, make sure she's not dizzy, loses her equilibrium, because the only safety device she has is that helmet.
Tremendous job from Allison Bly. I'll tell you, looking at it in slow motion, you can see the force of this explosion. Unbelievable. You can see the box as the countdown continues. She will detonate the explosives from inside the box. And now it seemed to be that we saw her come out of the right-hand side. There's the explosion, the debris everywhere, and there she is on the right-hand side of your screen.
That box just went flying, and as soon as the smoke clears, we can make out her form. I see her arm towards the right part of the screen, the bottom of her boots. Her hair is just flying all over the place. And when you first look at her, you can see she sustained a tremendous amount of impact there. Again, just wearing that helmet is her only safety device.
It's no joke. There's a tremendous amount of force exerted by that dynamite. It is truly 4 sticks of dynamite from another angle. This should show Allison coming really towards the viewer. There you see the box literally being blown apart, and there she is. She's literally about 3 or 4 feet off the ground at that point from the explosion.
It almost looks like she's diving into a swimming pool, but it's not a pool, it's hard ground.
Concrete all the way around as the lady takes the hit onto the floor of the New Orleans Superdome. Like I said, an amazing stunt. There aren't too many people in the business of stunt performances that will even bother with this particular trick, but an amazing job by Allison Bly. You'll be hearing a lot more from that beautiful young lady later on. You know, there's a lot more action that's been going on here at the New Orleans Superdome, along with the thrill show action, the championship mud racing. Throughout this event, there's been a United States Highway Association National Championship truck pull going on. And we're going to be moving over to the 200-foot-long truck pull course in just a minute to see a very special exhibition run by a very special piece of equipment. This is a 1977 white Freightliner cab-over semi-tractor. Believe it or not, campaigned by California's Dan Coelho, the 7-time California state champion in the 6,200-pound modified four-wheel drive class. However, Coelho has this incredible jackrabbit machine. It is an exhibition puller on the U.S. Highway Association Trail. It is a street-legal, Chrysler-powered white Freightliner cab-over, pulling 40,000 pounds down a 200-foot-long tractor. Now, this thing is always a crowd pleaser, Shelley.
Now, you mentioned 40,000 pounds. There aren't actually 40,000 pounds that are on that sled. It is simply the weight being transferred, and that's where the fun begins.
That's right. Now, you can see the machine leaving the starting line. The front wheels just skimming the ground because of the weight transfer on the vehicle, let alone the weight box that it is pulling behind it. Coelho in the driver's seat, looking, using the rear view mirrors, actually, to see where the sled is. Now, starting to take it down the track. Those are street tires. Those are not pulling paddle tires by any stretch of the imagination. You can see a lot of tire spin, but still a lot of forward momentum as the machine finally yanks the front wheels in the air at the 200-foot mark. Tremendously popular vehicle. Dan Coelho, the 7-time state pulling champion from California, with his incredible Jackrabbit exhibition white Freightliner.
At last, the car is an appropriate name.
Amazing piece. And speaking of the names, the reason that thing's called Jackrabbit is because Coelho is Portuguese for rabbit. Well, we've still got an awful lot of championship action coming up here at the Superdome in New Orleans, including the incredible monster trucks. We've got four-wheel monster trucks versus tanks coming up next. It's going to be wild, Shelley.
And Bigfoot's all a part of it, so don't go away.
We'll be right back. We're back at the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana for U.S. Association Championship Monster Truck action. I'm Brett Kebner along with Shelley Herman. We are ready for elimination-style monster truck action on a closed course. And indeed, the very first pair up includes the incredible Predator of Alan Paiso from Michigan and this incredible tow truck, Ray Perkowski from St. Louis, Missouri. The machine called Evil Force is a fully operational tow truck. Here they come to the finish line. And, man, you couldn't call a closer race than that, Shelley.
That's really something. I've never seen Evil Force run before, and I'm glad he doesn't have to put his own tow truck to his own usage.
Well, the winner has been declared the Predator of Alan Paiso, the supercharged Chevrolet, but you got to credit the Ford driver with the original pickup truck from St. Louis. A tremendous effort. Now, this is an unusual event, an unusual course in the sense that the finish line is actually in the air. These vehicles will be airborne, heading at each other on two different tracks when they cross the actual finish line that determines the winner and runner-up. Of course, the winner of each round will advance to the next competition round here in the four-wheel drive class. And remember, the winner of the overall four-wheel drive title will take on the winner of the tank division. Here you see that last set of cars in which in the middle, in the air, is the finish line. Paiso a little sideways. Watch the landing. Boy, he takes a hit in the cockpit. The machine very sideways. He manages to keep it upright while hanging out of the driver's side window to take the win by a matter of inches.
He sure got his head bunged up there, too, by hanging it out the window like that.
A lot of drivers seem to prefer to be able to see the left front wheel while they're going over cars, to see how it reacts, to see if the suspension is working properly, and it also gives them a little better field of vision than looking over the hood. Now, here you see Ray Perkowski from St. Louis with the wheels up of this incredible 18,000-pound vehicle. It is one of the heaviest monster trucks currently in competition. It takes a rough landing as well. And like I said, he was just a few feet short in that airborne finish line, sending Michigan's Alan Paiso and the Predator Chevrolet into the next competition round. Wild ride here by the Evil Force tow truck.
And a hard landing.
I think we'll be seeing a lot more of Ray Perkowski in the future, but Paiso, like I said, advances to the next round, and here is his competition. The worst possible opponent a monster truck driver could have. Andy Brass from St. Louis, Missouri, also driving the infamous Bigfoot Ford of Bob Chandler, Shelley.
It's bad for Predator, but it's great for the fans. They all love Bigfoot, and a lot of them come out just to see Bigfoot compete live.
Couldn't ask for more. Look at this packed house watching a Ford versus Chevrolet battle between two of the biggest names in the business. Bigfoot and Alan Paiso lead together. Andy Brass takes the most famous truck in the history of motorsports around the first turn. Here they come to the airborne finish line. Bigfoot by a full truck length. Look at Paiso. Unbelievable sideways bounce and a landing that puts him in the mud pit. Unbelievable effort put forth by that 22-year-old Michigan driver.
He had trouble holding on to it earlier, and he wound up with the mud this time, and I hope that steam that we saw was just because of the mud hitting the engine and nothing broke.
Actually, the smoke we saw, I think, was coming out before he ever got into the mud. I think the landing may have broken one of the power steering pumps. Here it is in slow motion. We'll get a chance to see. Now, this is a wild ride. He hits the cars at an angle. That's what put him sideways. Look at this thing in the air. Unbelievable landing on the left front tire. And that did indeed break the steering pump. There you see the smoke coming out as indeed I believe the exhaust headers were being sprayed with power steering fluid. But what a ride. Finally ending up in the mud. Look at him in the cockpit, just being thrown all over the place, even though he is strapped in tight with a 5-point harness system. Unbelievable ride for Alan Pezzo. You couldn't ask for that young man to have tried any harder, Shelley.
And this is the winner. As you can see, a perfect lineup to hit these cars. He hits, and look at the height that he gets. It's that kind of action that makes him number one.
Well, Andy Brass had a pretty rough landing. It's amazing, as you pointed out, though. The hit was perfect. The machine actually took a nosedive under the left front, even in the air. And as you can see, a lot of bouncing after landing. The tires compressing, a tremendous driving job by Brass. As a matter of fact, just barely tapping one of our event signs down there.
So Brass will go on to be the winner of the monster truck competition, but he's got some tanks to contend with coming up.
That's right. He wins the four-wheel drive division, but now we've got a shootout between some of the wildest monster machines ever created, the incredible tanks. But right now, Andy Brass is just concerned with making it into that final. They'll have to check the suspension on this vehicle to make sure everything is okay to take on the winner of these incredible vehicles, the Monster Tank Showdown, coming up next. We're back at the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, as we are narrowing the field of monster machines down to an overall championship battle here at the U.S. Hoffman Association Monster Truck and Thrill Show Spectacular. I'm Brett Kevner, and along with Shelley Herman, this is the battle for the overall Tank Monster Championship. You're looking at two trucks using an Army M4 chassis each with supercharged Chevrolet motivation. In the left-hand side of your screen, it's the original tank. Mike Katz at the wheel of Bill Towns' incredible Virginia Beach Beast Chevy Blazer, taking on the one and only Randy Christie, a longtime drag racer who is now wheeling Fred Schaefer's incredible supercharged Chevy-powered Barefoot Trax. The green flag comes up, and Shelley, these things aren't 18,000-pound four-wheelers. These are 25,000 pounds of metal.
And with that, you get a little different strategy. You're not looking so much for the height. You're looking to get over these vehicles as fast as you can.
And obviously, it is a runaway for Bill Towns' incredible Virginia Beach Beast. Mike Katz taking this one easily, as it looked like Randy Christie may have had some problems making the turn down there. And that's not unusual, especially on concrete. Because these machines are turned like tanks, you don't use a steering wheel, you use two separate sticks to stop the power going to each set of tracks. Sometimes on a concrete course, it's real easy to spin these things out because of the weight and the fact that it's metal against concrete. But in any case, Mike Katz will now go to the next round against a driver we've already seen. Now let's take a look at the slow motion replay of that last set of cars. And amazingly, this thing does get air. It's very unusual to see a tank get airborne over the cars, mainly because they have the power, the weight, and the forward momentum to literally plow through the cars rather than jump over them.
And he was able to hang on to it, too, and actually get some speed going over the cars without losing it.
Well, that's a good point, Shelley, because these particular machines have no suspension. If you think it's a rough ride bouncing around in those monster trucks, take a look at the beating Randy Christie takes in this particular hit with the Barefoot Fast Tracks. Now watch this thing. It doesn't get too much air, but look at the driver. Because there's no suspension, he is just thrown around in the cockpit like you can't believe. This is the roughest ride in all of monster truck racing. These 25,000-pound Army tanks with no suspension whatsoever, when you come off the cars and land on concrete, you feel every bit of it. Wham! Just like that. Unbelievable ride.
He's wearing a neck collar and a harness, and he still gets beat around like that in the cab.
It's true, but if it wasn't for that safety equipment, boy, it sure would be a lot worse. Now, here's the man that Katz has to take on to get a berth in the final round to face Bigfoot. It's a driver we just saw in the Predator four-wheeler Chevrolet. This is Alan Pezzo again, a Michigan driver in the near lane with his Predator tank. He has two monster trucks, and this 22-year-old Shelley built both of them alone. He is an amazing engineer.
And really dedicated to the sport.
The green flag goes up. They leave the starting line. They're not the fastest machines on takeoff, but they can corner like nothing else in motorsports. Watch this. Just whipping it around, using that stick control system to line up anywhere, take any type of turn. And again, it's a runaway for Katz as Pezzo has problems spinning around on the concrete floor of the Superdome in that last turn. So it looks like Katz in the Virginia Beach Beast goes into the final. A Ford versus Chevrolet battle. He will take on Bigfoot. There's a nice little victory 360 spin for you.
The classic duel, Chevy versus Ford.
I'll tell you, the Bigfoot team is going to have to really be on their toes for this thing because Andy Brass has faced the Virginia Beach Beast tank before, and it's always tough. The original monster tank will be coming up against the original monster truck. Let's take a look at Pezzo as he hits the last set of cars rather late. At this point, Katz in the Virginia Beach machine was already past the finish line. Again, you can see the driver thrown all around the cockpit as these machines do not have any suspension whatsoever. Watch this landing. Watch the driver. wham, into the dashboard. You can actually see his helmet hit the dashboard and move it. Absolutely incredible hit. Now, I'm sure Mike Katz will be a little bit more secure. He gets air about 2 feet up. It actually lands quite nicely because he was using the cars as a form of suspension, crushing them. Now let's see what happens when he comes off the dirt.
He hits the bottom, and he doesn't hit his head.
No, he doesn't slam his head into the dashboard, but still a violent ride. But that's the machine you'll be seeing, the showdown against Bigfoot. In just a moment, Bigfoot should be pulling out onto the starting line. His Katz is with it right back around and is just waiting for his opponent to show. As you can see, an absolute packed house here tonight, literally up to the rafters with race fans at this U.S. Off-Road Association Championship event. And here comes Andy Brass in the Ford four-wheeler taking on the Chevrolet powered tank.
When the crowd are on their feet, too, you can just hear them. They love this kind of competition.
Well, rightfully so. Like we said, this is the original Monster four-wheeler against the original Monster tank. The two machines that started two different segments of the same motorsport. The flagman has them lined up, ready to drop the green. There we go. And we're underway in the championship battle here at the New Orleans Superdome for this U.S. Off-Road Association Championship title. Andy Brass takes the turn a little wide with Bigfoot. Now gets back on the throttle. Here comes Katz in the tank. Side by side, Bigfoot by a full truck length. I'll tell you what, that was driving by Andy Brass. He took that first turn too wide and still came back to make up the difference.
Well, like they say, what Ford stands for, first on race day.
In this particular case, it's absolutely true. As Katz goes down to beat by about 1 full truck length, you can see Andy Brass already waving to the Bigfoot fans. They are thrilled with that one. Now, it looked like Katz's run was perfect in every respect, and very seldom can a four-wheeler outrun straight against the clock one of these tank machines. He lands hard in the center of the cars, but remember, he's not getting the air that the four-wheelers are. Comes out of the cars fine. It looked like just about a perfect run. He gets thrown around a little bit in there, but we can see a lot of smoke out of the engine. That may have indicated a problem. In fact, there's Katz looking back at the motor behind him. So apparently there was a problem with the power plant. Now watch Andy Brass's last hit. At this point, just going to clear these cars and get over that finish line in the air. There's the win, and here's the landing right after it. Beautiful, smooth landing. A little bit of a bounce, wheels up for the fans as Bigfoot comes back down to earth. Once again, a champion. How many times have we seen this sight on ESPN's coverage of SRO Pace U.S. Off-Road Association Championship action? Bigfoot driving away for the victory. And I'll tell you, after 14 years, that big blue Ford of Bob Chandler's is still on top of this sport. We'll be back with a few final words from the New Orleans Superdome in just a moment. Well, anytime you get the biggest names in monster truck racing together in one place, you know it's going to be a battle. But, Shelley, what can you say about Bigfoot? Andy Brass and the Big Blue Ford do it again.
Bigfoot is always such a crowd pleaser, but there's always some young Turk coming up the pike ready to take him on, and Bigfoot always manages to stay that half a step ahead of everybody else.
That's for sure. And in the super modified mud racing ranks, Larry Jarrett took his second U.S. Off-Road Association National Championship win here tonight. But indeed, one of these days this year, he's going to run up against world champ Tom Martin, Tom Mintz, and some of these other hitters, and that's going to be a battle.
That should be some real exciting competition.
You have to talk about Ernie Adams, a motorcycle jumper who maybe doesn't have as much experience as some of the bigger-known names in that particular business, but, man, his style is incredible.
You know, in such a short period of time, he's made quite a name for himself and quite a good reputation. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more of him this year.
And hopefully we'll see a lot more of this kind of action at U.S. Off-Road Association events across the country. We'd like to thank you for being with us on behalf of ESPN, SRO Pace Promotions, and the U.S. Off-Road Association. On behalf of myself, Fred Kepner, and Shelley Herban, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you at the next U.S. Off-Road Association Championship Mud Racing and Monster Truck Spectacular.